Well, hello. Welcome to Physiology Friday. Um, so I guess I never really explained that. So psychology is in the mind, physiology is the body. Um, if I could have figured out how to make physiology Monday or psychology Monday, but there was no alliteration that worked like that. That's why it ended up being Mental Health Monday versus psychology something. But Physiology Friday sounded really kind of cool together. Um, was this at my dancing at the beginning, or the fact that I almost missed my own live because I was busy watching your video? So I'll hold out a few minutes to see if anybody else rambles in to both. My initial thought process on this, I actually contemplated this morning just go ahead and canceling the live and doing it as a pre-record, but I couldn't figure out how to do screen shares on a pre-recorded video, like using through the camera on my computer. I don't even know if that's possible. So I'm like, screw it, I'll go live. But there was an activity that I was going, a brief activity I was going to do at the top of the live. But if there's only one person in the live chat, it doesn't really necessarily make a whole lot of sense to do the activity, because the one person that's currently in chat already knows a bit about this condition. So today I will be talking about aphantasia. It is it's a brain, I don't know if they call it a disorder. I'm not sure what it's classified under, but essentially there's a lack of communication in the brain between the visual cortex and like the memory bank. I do have a web page that I will be doing a screen share on that explains it a little bit better than what I just did. But so sis, when you close your eyes and you imagine something, do you see a picture? Like, can you visually see it? Or mentally see it, I should say. Okay, I think when we were together at like Easter, or possibly the time before that, when all of us, all three of you guys were here, I kind of vaguely remembered having a conversation about this with all of you kids, but I couldn't remember for sure. So I'm just going to start with this cute little short little TikTok video that I found on that I found on TikTok. I'm going to share a TikTok video that I found on TikTok. So I'm going to share that screen and we'll play.
So that's actually the question I ask people, like when I first bring up this conversation. I say,
oops.
And then when they close their eyes and picture an apple, I say, okay, you know how you can see that apple? And they go, yeah. And then I go, I can't see the apple. I just
can you hear it?
So it's also kind of a great way to diagnose people with aphantasia, because usually if I say picture an apple to somebody without aphantasia, they go, I don't have to close my eyes to do that. But if I tell somebody with aphantasia to close their eyes and picture an apple, they close their eyes and they focus really, really hard and they're like, okay, I see it. So like, does that make sense? So that's actually the question I ask people, like when I first bring up this conversation, I say, close your eyes and picture an apple. And then when they close their eyes and picture an apple, I say, okay, you know how you can see that apple? And they go, yeah. And then I go, I can't see the apple.
Okay.
I just see black. So it's also kind of a great way to diagnose people with aphantasia, because usually if I say picture an apple to somebody without aphantasia, they go, I don't have to close my eyes to do that. But if I tell somebody with aphantasia to close their eyes and picture an apple, they close their eyes and they focus really, really hard and they're like, okay, I see it. So like, does that make sense? So that's actually the question I ask people, like when I first bring up this conversation. I say,
so yeah, as I was pulling up information websites, I came across an article that was talking about this girl from TikTok, and I was like, okay, it's kind of, and I was kind of wondering if she was going to go a little bit more into like the full they call it the Apple test. But it was just kind of a cute little thing about, just, yeah, I mean, it's a reality that not a lot of people realize, that, some of us don't have that mind's eye. We don't have that ability to see that inner image. And after all the presentation, I want to go back and just kind of read some of the comments from that video, because I think it also really kind of hammers home the I want to say reality. I'm not sure what word I'm looking for, but the some of the realizations, those aha moments that those of us that have been diagnosed have experienced, because really this didn't even have a name prior to 2015, but they suspect it's been around for a very, very, very long time, but until 2015 there was no diagnostic code for it. There was not, like I said, there wasn't even a name for it. I can't remember. I'd have to really think about what year I got my diagnosis. I can't remember what year it was. But yeah, that's kind of what my recollection is at this point as well. Yeah. It's funny you put first and middle for your oldest and first and last for for, for your other brother. It's funny the way you did the initials. For where it came to light for me, was interesting, because it is in one of the comments, not from me, but somebody had made a comment on that TikTok video that was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I found out. So I have a friend that lives up in Canada, who's a teacher, and the classic teacher thing, I want you to close your eyes and picture blah, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And she had a child. Oh, I guess that makes sense. That makes sense. She had a kid in her class that was just like, and it was kind of like what she was saying, he was just like, grabbing his head, and he was just like, really exhibiting physical signs that he was distressed. And so when she talked to him about it, he had told her that he couldn't do it. And she's like, what do you mean? And so when she posted it on her Facebook, she was like, it never occurred to me that there was people walking the planet that can't visualize images. Never, and all, even as my career as a teacher, never occurred to me. And when she posted that on Facebook, it was like, I was like, wait, what? People can see images in their head? It was like, that was the first moment in time where I realized that what I experience on the daily was the abnormality. I had no clue, and I don't know, and then going back and looking backwards, yeah, she can draw from memory. I think, yeah. Well, and I think that depends. If you, and let me get back to that. So for me, like I said, I don't know when it began, and I don't know if that's part and parcel. It may be part of the reason that I have such an issue with my memory. It may be the full reason that I have issues with my memory. I don't really know. That's another aspect of diagnostic testing and all of that needs to be done, as well as probably some cognitive therapy. I'm actually looking for an EMDR specific therapist that takes my insurance, ideally in my own town, uh, so that I can actually do some EMDR work to figure out if my memory, how much of my memory issues is trauma related and how much of it is actually just this aphantasia. Just one more thing on my plate that I'm figuring out how to get done. I would just say on this, sis, depends. I would say it depends on the details. Like if she sits down and draws a character, and I'm just going to throw from Owl House, just because I know that's something that's watched in your house all the time. If she sits down and draws like the basic shape and structure of a character, but then can't remember like what color pants they wear or what color their eyes are, and so that aspect of her drawings changes, but the general structure is always correct, then there may be a possibility of some degree of it. But if she sits down and it's like spot on, colors are accurate, structure, everything is accurate, then most likely not. Well, hi, Shark. And he's going to freak Arrow out because Arrow's asleep on my craft room floor. You better move. You better move. He's going to get you. Oh, Sharky's coming for your butt. He's going to get you. Ah! He's like, okay, I run. So what exactly is what exactly is aphantasia? But I will say that it's exactly what she drew: red dress, white hair, 2 different colored eyes, and the gold tooth. Okay, so that I would say no, because that's the biggest thing. And we've talked about that. That there is no visual image. I can remember facts and I can remember data. I cannot remember visual aspects of any of that data. When I talked about, I think it was on Monday. I can't remember which live it was. I had made the comment about, somebody asks you, what your child was wearing when they left for school that morning. I never am able to do that. Simply because that's not the way things process into my brain. Now, if when my child was leaving the house, I verbally told myself they're wearing a red shirt, blue jeans, black shoes, red baseball cap, I would be able to recall that. But to be able to visually see it in my head doesn't happen. To visualize anything doesn't happen, no matter how clear the memory is. And memory is a very fickle thing anyway, because it's difficult to differentiate between a true memory and a planted memory. If you hear a story over and over and over again, it incorporates into your memory bank as a memory. But how do you then determine, do you remember that incident because you remember it, or are you remembering it because you've heard it so many times? And that's also a struggle that I have, is that a lot of the actual childhood memories that I do have, I can't differentiate them. So I have no clear understanding as to whether I'm truly remembering that stuff, or if I'm remembering it because I've heard the stories of it. So again, I'm hoping to getting involved with an EMDR therapist will kind of help with that some. Nervous about what kind of trauma might be in my past that I'm blocking out. But again, I mean, that's how you get through stuff, is to go through stuff, you know? So aphantasia actually affects, currently what they say is 2% of the population, which is like 100, I think they said it's like 150, I don't know, billion people or million people. But they suspect it might be up to 5% of the population actually experience this and don't know it. And most often, it's not diagnosed until adulthood. And I don't know. And I think that might just be because people aren't realizing that what they are experiencing is different. So they don't mention it. What kid's going to go around talking to, hey, you know what? When I close my eyes, I don't, da 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 da. And it's usually not until much later, when you're having these really weird, conversations that adults tend to have, or late teens tend to have, that you go, wait a minute. Something's a little different with me. So this next couple sites, so this one, we'll kind of go over what is aphantasia, what the causes are of it, and whether or not there is any effective treatments for it. There's no medication that helps it, because again, it's a structural issue within the brain. Oh, I didn't realize I was sharing the screen that whole time. Whoops. So, aphantasia. If you close your eyes, can you still see? The question may seem silly, but humans have the remarkable brain power to conjure up images of their past experiences, faces of loved ones, familiar objects, and general imaginings within the lids firmly shut. Many take this skill for granted, assuming that creating mental pictures while reading a brilliant fantasy novel, or clearly recalling a special childhood birthday cake's shape and color, is a fundamental human practice. This kind of internal visualization has more to do with mind than the eye, though it seems not all are equally competent with it. Aphantasia is the inability to visualize images voluntarily in one's head. It is estimated that approximately 2% of the people have this condition. So just history again, the phrase aphantasia was coined in 2015 after a study by Dr. Adam Zeman. But again, they think it's been around for quite a long time. As Darwin's cousin, Galton sometimes lives in the shadows, but he was a highly respected individual in his own right, considered the father of eugenics. He talks about his initial experiment on the mind's eye. A large number of them, posed this. So yeah, I mean, even back to Darwin times, there's some literature that intimates that people had broken third eyes. I've said in several streams before, I've made the joke that I'm third eye blind. And I don't think a whole lot of people really have ever caught that when I say it, but that's what I mean. My third eye, my mind's eye, is blind, so I don't see that kind of stuff. So symptoms: if you struggle to paint the scene even vaguely, you may have aphantasia. The symptoms are tied to our earlier definition, but there are often symptoms laid out in Dr. Zeman's study mentioned above. Lives without imagery, congenital aphantasia. I'm gonna have to get into that. So he did a test study questioning 21 participants who had been affected by aphantasia since birth. So that's the congenital aphantasia. It is believed that it is caused. There's two causes of it. One is being congenital, and that is that you're born with it, and two is as a result of some sort of TBI, traumatic brain injury, whether it's a stroke or a car accident that caused some damage to the brain, some sort of brain injury. So again, looking back on me, I don't recall ever having any kind of brain injury. There's no family stories. Nobody's ever said anything about having any brain injuries. So my belief is then, I mean, it has to have been congenital, and I've had it my whole life and just never knew it. But I don't know. But in that study of those 21 people, he found that 17 had a complete deficit in voluntary visual imagery. That means when they closed their eyes, they saw nothing but black. So I am complete deficit. I see nothing. 10 had involuntary imagery while awake. So just flashes of things while awake. 17 experienced imagery while dreaming. I don't dream. I have not recalled a dream in over 20 years, at least. Most reported difficulties with autobiographical memory. Absolutely. And the majority stated a modest effect on mood, which I never gave much thought to whether this affects my mood at all. But I could definitely see how it could. And 14 identified compensatory strengths in verbal, mathematical, and logical domains. Yes. Not going to toot my own horn there, but yes, and yes. In plain terms, people with the condition will most likely experience involuntary images when awake or dreaming, but typical aphantasia symptoms include struggling to recount memories as pictures, failure to recognize faces, and issues with trying to visualize future events. So for me, having been able to identify this has both been a blessing and a curse. It's been a blessing in the respect that, well, I guess even what I consider a curse is still a blessing because I have answers. But it made sense to me, once I found out about this, it made sense to me why I don't enjoy reading books, because I can't visualize. When I'm reading these books and it's, you're supposed to be taken away within that book, you know, off to another space, then I don't have the ability to do that. So when I'm reading about, okay, I don't read Harry Potter, but I'm just going to use that as an example. If I was to sit down and read a Harry Potter book, I can't visualize Hogwarts. I can't visualize that, what it would be like to run into a brick wall and reappear in another place. That that imagery does not come to me. Um and so I mean, I never enjoyed reading ever in my entire life. When I growing up, when I chose something for me to read, um is Maybelline. Who's Maybelline? Huh? Um Sorry, I read the chat and got distracted. Um Growing up, I really and that was part I think that was part of why I did so well in school despite having ADHD is because when I read textbook. I read technical stuff. And it all made sense to me. I retained it really, really well. I was able to like read chapter 1 and then chapter 5, be able to recall what I read in chapter 1 with no problem because they were linked. There was no imagery required to connect those two things. It was just all data, all logic, all fact. Um, oh, maybe it's me. I got it. Took me a minute. um, and even to this day, I mean, that's still how I am. If I'm going to read something, I prefer to read a technical manual, an article, a medical article, because it doesn't require me to visualize and take myself out of in order to understand and retain that information. Um, Hard concept, I think, for a lot of people to really grasp, I think. So again, there's speculating. There's only two known causes currently. Again, that's the congenital, so you're born with it, um, or after a brain injury. It's interesting that they say here, or a significant psychological event. Um, when I was researching this years ago, when I first learned of it, I do remember reading there is a form of psychological disorder. There's like a voluntary mutism. Um, I can't. There's a couple things like that where the brain just goes into protective mode and just forgets everything, and even like it's just surviving. The medulla is doing its life functions. It's making sure that you're breathing. It's making sure that your heart's beating and that you're doing the things to survive. But the rest of the brain is done. It's not functioning. It's not doing any of its normal processes. You're not, you know, um, it's like is it somatic syndromes? Gosh, I'm trying to remember my psychology classes. Somatoform? I don't know. But anyway, there is a part of psychology where, due to events, in order to protect the body and the brain, normal functions shut down. And it's not because the person doesn't have control over it. It's involuntary. The brain just does it. Um, so people have like gone deaf for no reason, no clinical reason. All the testings are done. There's no reason why they can't hear, and yet they can't hear. Speaking, seeing, you can lose, you know, I don't know if you can lose all five senses, but I know um, sight, hearing, and for sure. It's going to bug me. I might just have to grab my my DSM and look it up real quick. But so research indicates that there's a weaker connection between the parts of the brain responsible for the vision and the frontal regions that are involved in decision making. Your prefrontal cortex is your decision making center, right there in the center of your front of your brain. But the vision and the prefrontal cortex don't connect real well, or there's a weak connection, so that causes the aphantasia to interrupt, or that's not really, but it leads to it as a potential cause. So while it's not, I mean, there's no risk. There's no risk of, oh, hey, in check, how are you? Oh, yeah, the involuntary mutism. Yeah, it's usually a trauma response of some sort, typically. Um, the I did. I should take notes while I'm doing this because again, the ADHD keeps like I get distracted on the chat, and then I'm like, wait, what was I saying? What do you do for work? This is the first time I've ever actually like had a communication with you at all. It's not like a life-threatening thing. Nothing like that. It's just really, really inconvenient. In a lot of ways, it kind of sucks. Like, I think the worst part for me is that I don't remember what my dad looked like. I don't remember what my brother looked like. My brother died when I was 7. My dad died when I was 13. So to not be able to close my eyes and picture them and remember what they look like is a really hard thing to do. And my mother, being who she was, I've only got a couple pictures of my dad, servicing accounts. I only have a couple pictures of my dad. I think I have maybe one picture of my brother. But that's really all I have of them. That's what I have for, memories is pictures because I can't see them in my head. And because mine affects more than just my vision, I don't even have those kind of memories. Like, my dad was a cook, for example. My dad was a cook at the Moose Lodge, and he cooked breakfast there every Sunday morning, and I would go and help. It was also bingo day, another one of my fondest memories. And there was this two different stories mixed in one. There was this little old lady there that I used to help with her bingo cards because she couldn't see them very well. And I remember those Sundays, and my dad was cooking breakfast. But for the life of me, when I close my eyes and reflect back on those memories, again, I can't visualize her. I can't visualize my dad. I can't smell the bacon cooking. None, because it affects my hearing, and it affects my smell, and affects my vision. So this is the olfactory, the gustolfactory, or something like that, and then the audit or the visual. I forget what that one's called. But yeah, so it's just kind of a crazy. It's crazy. But there is no cure for it. There have shown some cognitive therapies that have shown some effectiveness in like daytime imagery, like being able to recall stuff, like what non-aphants would call, like daydreaming. But being able to have those flashes for people that don't have them. There's some techniques that you can use from CBT, that has improved that, but not to the degree that other people experience it. So again, it comes down to, is this something that I'm willing to spend a bunch of money, bill my insurance for, to go through and develop all these skills so that I can start daydreaming? Ew. No. If you could help me remember what my dad looked like when I closed my eyes, absolutely. I would pay anything to be able to do that. But that's not what, what therapies that have shown some effectiveness, that's not where it's showing improvement. It's not in the memory. It's not in the visualization. It's more in the connection of data versus imagery, if that makes any sense. Yeah, and congenital aphantasia is thought to be less curable, because as we grow, our brains become less plastic, not placid, plastic, and that, there's less plasticity. We don't bend, we don't mold, because the brain, it hardwires, versus when we're young, it's more soft wire. Throw on some weird computer technology terms there. But we become more hardwired as we grow. So the more hardwired we are, the less malleable we are. You can't change things. You can't adjust and, and shift those. So there is a test that can be taken, to see if you are an aphant or if you fall within the spectrum, because you can have, any degree of that. You can be a full aphant like I am and see absolutely nothing, or somewhere between there and absolutely yes, I can see with a super clear, vivid, but it's called the Vividness of Visual Imagery Questionnaire. There is 32 questions, if I remember correctly. There's 4 sections, and it gives you tasks. So you visualize this, and then on a scale of 1 to 5, rate it. Can you see no images at all? Is it dim or vague? Can you kind of see it, but not really? Is it realistic? You can, yeah, okay. Or is it, dang, I can see that as if it's right here in my hand. And you're going to rank those 1 to 5. And at the end, you score the test, and it lets you know kind of where you're at with that. The link to that test is actually in the description box for anybody that's interested in taking it. Sorry, I was clicking through the tabs that I had open to see if there was anything that I was missing sharing. I don't think so. So yeah, the really hard part too, and it's, think about your 5 senses, and if somebody names a song title, Stairway to Heaven. I'll just throw one out there. If you close your eyes and you concentrate, it doesn't even really take a whole lot of concentration for some people, but if you close your eyes and think about it, can you hear the song even though it's not playing? I can't. Now, because the words, the lyrics are data, a lot of times I can recall the words. But because music, specifically, the lyrics and the instrumentals are connected. I get lost in that when I can't hear it. I get lost in the lyrics. Like I lose them. I know them, but I can't recite them because I don't have the instrumental to go along with it. But the reverse of that is I can just hear an instrumental without the lyrics and I can sing the lyrics because the data is in my memory. I don't know if that made any sense. Same thing with smell. Close your eyes and imagine a pizza. Can you smell it? Can you taste it? I forgot. It messes with my taste too. Yeah, your tendency to burst out in song. If you imagine a pizza, can you smell it? Can you taste it? Not me. It's just a thing. I can't even see it in my head. Factually, I can describe a pizza to you. It's round. It's got sauce. It's got cheese. It's got meat. It's hot. But I can't see it in the mind's eye. So you may be, on the low end, you might have some of it. There is no studies that, because it's still relatively new on the spectrum of medical study, they still don't know a lot about it. So who knows if I'm sure they haven't even gotten around to figuring out, is it, genetic, be your Google Music. You can be my Google Music. Yeah. And I'm horrible. Like, I can't even remember, like, I'll hear a song and I know the words to the song, but I can never remember like song titles. Sometimes I'll know who the singer is. And I'm not sure if that's just me not paying attention or not caring. I don't know. One thing that I found was interesting while I was, going through and gathering information and websites to present today, I came across a clinical article there that talks about the relationship between aphantasia and autism, which I was like, huh, kind of piqued my interest a little bit. I've got to see if I can, because the website that I found it on is you have to pay a membership in order to get access to the full article. And that's not possible for me at this point. So I'm gonna Google around and see if I can find some free articles for me to look at. But yeah, it says we asked whether aphantasics, I've never heard it said that way, have traits associated with autism. An important question, given that autism, like aphantasia, is linked to weak imagery. We found that aphantasics reported more autistic traits than controls, with weaknesses in imagination and social skills. I was like, what? And Sam, considering, all of this that we've been talking about on our own, it seriously piqued my interest. I'm like, because we do know that autism can be hereditary. And autism is a spectrum disorder. So everybody's different in what symptoms present. So yeah, I'm going to do some deep dive and see if I can find some more the RADS. Did you spell that correctly? RADDS? So yeah, I'm going to do some deep diving into yet another rabbit hole and see if I can find some more information on that, because I found that very interesting. That was new information for me today. Coughing less. I actually took a couple hits on my inhaler before I started the live to see if that would help. And it has. I think that's what is causing the coughing, is that I take a deep breath and it's triggering some bronchial issues in my lungs. So I'm like, let me see if my inhaler will help with that. And it certainly seems to have helped. Okay, I'll have to look into it. I'll look it up. There goes my Sharky. Emptying his butt. So back to this TikTok video. Whoops, I forgot to screen share before I clicked over. Share screen, TikTok. I'm getting much faster at that. Come on, scroll. No, wrong video.
So that's actually the question I ask people.
I don't want to talk. I want scroll. Where's your? There it goes. I want this. I don't want to. No. I didn't realize when people said they can picture stuff in their head that they were serious. When people say picture yourself on a beach, the only thing happening is me saying, I'm on a beach in my head. Me in school, when the teacher would tell people to close their eyes and imagine and sing nothing. I can't see an apple, but it's like there. I know what it looks like, but I can't see it as a physical thing. I know what things look like, but I can't see them. And I have no idea how that makes any sense. In 7th grade, we did a 15-minute close your eyes and imagine anything. Draw what you saw. I colored the whole paper black because that's all I saw. I got an F. Now think about that one. The child, I'm not going to try whatever this person's name is, got an F on her assignment for doing exactly what she was instructed to do. Draw what you see. She colored a page black because that's all she could see. And she was giving a failing grade. I'd be curious how old she is. In her avatar, she looks fairly young. Can you get profile? Can you get that kind of information? I would guess maybe, I don't know, late 20s, early 30s. If I had to guess. I don't know if that information, I'm still learning TikTok, so I'm not super sure. Which, speaking of which, I have an alarm set on my phone to go off at 12:30 to remind me to post my lives to my TikTok and my Instagram. Oh, it's because my alarm got turned off. Huh. It just dawned on me. I didn't post to my TikTok or my Instagram. But yeah, I would say, she looks like 20s, early 30s. So yeah, she probably, she falls within that age range where her teacher probably was not aware. $199 out of $240. 2 A's and a D. Okay. 2 A's and a D. That was a long time ago that we were talking about that. So yeah, now I'm really curious. Like I said, I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole, and research a little bit more the link between aphantasia and autism. Um, so tune in for a future Physiology Friday, for that information. But otherwise, just food for thought. Keep in mind, obviously I'm not a medical provider. This is for educational purposes only, as it says in the disclaimer at the bottom. Do not self-diagnose. Don't take this as medical advice. Seek out professional care if any of this sounds familiar to you. Again, and in the case of aphantasia, there's nothing really that can be done. It's more about an, oh, okay, kind of a thing. It's not something that's going to like eventually, like, to the best of their knowledge anyway. It's not like suddenly, um, it's not going to like eat your brain away or anything. And um, it's just, for informational purposes to know that maybe what you're experiencing is not, is different than other people, but you're also not alone in it. Um, and again, the link to the Vivid is VVIS, I think is what. Oh, sorry, VVIQ. I went back and looked. The Vividness of Visual Imagery Questionnaire, VVIQ. The link to that again is in my description box. So you can take that if you're interested, and it'll rank you from a total aphant like myself versus you have no aphantasia because you see things in super real, vivid reality within your head. Oh, that's why my phone went because you sent me screenshots. um, I don't know if I'll go live at all this weekend. Those kind of tend to go. Those are those randomness ones. Um, if I can't sleep or I'm bored out of my mind or, for whatever reason, I may go live. Otherwise, tune in Monday for Mental Health Monday. I'm going to go over the stages of change, not stages of change, the stages of grief. And just kind of do some discussion on grief, what it is, and what is quote unquote appropriate, or not appropriate, I guess is the better way to put that, on grief. Kind of some of the myths and misnomers and stuff that go along with grief and loss, those things that we hear and that we're told. I'm going to try not to be sappy and cryy and, all emotional and stuff. And anybody that's wants to come up on panel and discuss their issues with grief and loss, they are welcome to do so. Just let me know in the comments. Since I don't have a community tab, I can't really put that out there. If you are on my Instagram, you can always message me on Instagram, or on TikTok and let me know if you're interested in coming up on panel on Monday. If I know you personally, because you're my child, you can let me know. But yeah, so if I don't see you guys over the weekend, and hopefully you guys find something good and fun to do, that your weather is good. We've had a lot of weather fronts hit the world, that have wreaked a lot of havoc. So hopefully you're in good weather. And those of you that have been hit by the recent hurricanes, both in Florida and in Canada, hope you're doing well and are recovering from that. So that is it for today. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Please hit the like button on your way out if you didn't hit it on the way in. Again, hit that notification bell, so that you get you get the alerts that when I'm going live. We know YouTube doesn't always work well. Sometimes you'll get them, sometimes you won't. But I'm pretty standard Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific time. So if you're not getting notifications, if you really want to catch my lives, just put an alarm in your phone and, know that Monday through Friday, I'm here 1 o'clock Pacific Standard. So you guys have yourself a good day and peace.